Hi, I'm Brianna, a homeschool mom to two. My third is still a baby, so not quite there yet. In true fashion, I am in a sweater and pajama pants, because that's what my channel is called. Why do I do my hair and makeup? I'm not quite sure. If you see me looking down, it's just my notes here, but this is my video on why Logic of English is the absolute best program that I've ever tried. And I'm still pretty new to this, so like take it with a grain of salt, but out of everything that I have tried, which has been many things, Logic of English is the absolute best one that I've tried. So number one is I really love the phonetics of every letter. So I really love how they break it down and they really explain why each letter makes every single sound. So for example, like A, they have you do a little like A, ah, A, ah. And so they understand that A makes a different sound in other letters, so it's not confusing later on. And some letters only make one sound, like H, H, and some letters make a ton, like letter, I think it's Y, makes like 4 or 5 sounds. So it really breaks it down and has you really go through the phonetics of everything so that they really get a grasp on it. And that kind of bleeds into my number 2, which is like it helps with speech. So my oldest son is 7 and he's been in speech therapy since he was 3. And this program has helped leaps and bounds with his speech. He is sounding out every sound of every letter and then he's putting it together in words. And so he's really learning to use his mouth and his tongue and his lips like they do in speech therapy and really being able to sound everything out really well. So I think it is amazing for speech therapy. My third point is that my kids absolutely love it. They don't mind doing it at all, which some programs they really do mind doing. But this one they really love doing. It incorporates a lot of fun along with the book work. So they have like bingo, they have matching games. A lot of times they'll have me sound out a word and then the kids will act it out like d, a, n, s, and then they'll dance. And sometimes they'll have us scatter the flashcards around and I'll say a, and they'll race to find the letter A and bring it back to me. So my kids really do like doing it, which is a huge bonus for me because a lot of times they don't love it or look forward to it. My next one, which I already kind of touched on, is that they incorporate games. And so it's not just sitting down and doing book work like a lot of other programs are. We are getting up and moving. We are like bingo, like I just said, like I'm saying a sound like k, s, and then they're finding the letter C and circling it down. And like I can see their book, I know what's gonna make a bingo, but I mix it up a little bit. And then when they get the 3 in a row, bingo, I won. And so they really enjoy that. They enjoy that aspect of it. My next one is the readers. So they've changed it up a little bit, but in Foundations A, the original program, a lot of it is you make your own readers. And so we'd get to that point and we'd flip to the back of the book and tear out the pages and then they'd cut out their little, like it'd say dog in a hat. And so they'd find the picture out of, I don't know, I'd say like 10 or 11, and they'd find the dog in a hat and they'd cut it out and glue it and paste it in their book. And then they'd make their own reader. And my oldest son especially really loved that aspect of it. He'd be like, I want to do the next reader. I'd be like, okay, buddy, we're not quite there yet. Maybe we can try it, or I can try to find something online that you can do. But he really loved creating the readers. And they have since come out with readers for Foundations A. And I know for B, C, and D, they have readers that you buy with those, but my kids really loved creating them. And as far as the readers that they supply, that's what we do at bedtime. So I'll have my 4-year-old read a book, I'll have my 7-year-old read a book, and then I'll read whatever book we're reading for the night. We like to do chapter book series, and so we've kind of gone through some of the Dragon Masters series and Magic Treehouse and like 52 story Treehouse series. Right now we are starting to introduce Goosebumps, and they are too young for that. So right now what we're doing is we kind of like look at the cover art of it and read the back of it and talk about it, but we don't actually read the books, but that's what they're really into right now. And that's my fault because I love all things Halloween, all things spooky. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get all the vintage Goosebump books. And then they got really into it. But sidebar. So I also I think right now I'll actually go through them a little bit. So I only have A and B right now because that's what we've been working through and gone over. But for Foundations A, they have, so here's the teacher manual, and it is so easy to follow. It's pretty open and go, which I really, really love for our homeschool programs. I find, especially with teaching two different kids, that open and go programs just work a lot better for us. But here, for example, I think this might be the last lesson in the book, lesson 38. So it's telling you, okay, we're going over these long vowels. We're showing these flashcards so that we can say the vowels together. And then we're writing them out. And then we are going through the last letter of the alphabet and talking about, is it a consonant, is it a vowel? We're reading about it in our Doodling Dragons book, letter Z, obviously. And here's the handwriting portion. As much as I adore and love and will sing the high praises of this program, we do skip the handwriting. I don't love it. An example is letter A. They teach it as a roll in a line. And in their example, it's like a roll and then like a really slanty line. And I just found that confusing. So we use handwriting without tears for our writing. But if you want to, they do include handwriting. And then we are playing a phonogram board game that they give you in the student book. And then we're spelling if, zip, fox, flag, and flap. And then we are doing a high frequency word maze, which is also included in the student workbook. So I really like that these lessons aren't super long, but they have learning and flashcards, games in the book. It's like they use their time very wisely, in my opinion. Here is the student handbook, and maybe I will just try to flip to that same lesson that I just talked about. Well, I'll go over a little bit earlier. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna go. So this happens to be like an assessment. And so we're circling all of the words that start with K, and then we're circling all the words that start with B, and then we're finishing these words with these letters available. And then there is the handwriting portion. We don't do that, so we skipped it, but it is here. And then we're playing, what is that phonogram? And so the book, the teacher guide, will tell me what sound to say. And so for number 1, it was B. So they did the letter B, U, N, And so you say the sound and then they color the correct letter for that. Then we were reading and matching. So hot pot, wet net, bad map, big bag, Minnesota accent, sorry. And then pink fan, nest, hand, wet sink, and pink bus. And that was just the assessment to see if we could go on to the next lesson. So that was that. And then they have the Doodling Dragons book, which also comes with it. And it has this. I actually found very helpful. Don't skip this because I mean, who really does? I don't know like the phonogram stuff of this, so I'm a little lost with that. But you can see they match like this phonogram with here. And so you can kind of like piece it together. Like this one is ah for apple. This one is a like snake. And this one is ah like wash. So ah for letter A. And it is very helpful because some of them, as a grown adult, like I didn't super know. Like the letter U has 4 sounds. And I'm like, oh, what are they? I have to teach this. But it has, you know, the way they're sounded, color coordinated. So it's very easy to teach. And that one, so the package for Foundation A is about $95 if you get those books. It is more expensive if you get like their whole package, which includes like a whiteboard, flashcards, you know, some other like phonogram tiles. And if I were to do that over again, I probably would not have bought all that. I would have just bought the teacher guide, student workbook, and Doodling Dragons book for the $95 and just use my own whiteboard, my own flashcards. Really, I just don't think you need all that extra stuff. But that was $95. And the Foundations B set is $111, and it does come with a bunch of readers. Let me see. It comes with, I don't know, I'm not gonna count, but a lot. So there's quite a few readers. And some of them are just like the regular readers, and then they have the Young Artist series that it comes with. So there's that, like Foundation, or like book 1 for Foundations B is Fred the Frog. This is Fred, he's a frog. So we're already doing like the TH sounds. Fred thinks he is not a frog. So like right away with the first book in Foundations B, we're doing some pretty hard stuff like THs, S's at the end, wish. Yeah, so like that, love that. My kids have been working through Foundations B. My oldest is 7, my youngest is 4, and my 4-year-old's reading these right now because we went through Foundations A. So yeah, Fred has a wish, he has a plan, he thinks that he can get a tan. That Fred, he's a fun frog. And the next one is Stan and his skunk. The skunk stinks so bad that Stan stinks a lot. Like that is pretty impressive for only being 4 years old. And I love that. I love that for him. So Foundations B, we haven't made it. Sorry, I'm a little bit sweaty, so my hair is sticking to my face. I don't mean to be like itching my face a ton. So Foundations B, we've only gone through a couple lessons of this. We just started this, but same kind of concept. I'll just flip to a random page here, like a random lesson. Lesson 58, we're writing the letter V, uppercase, lowercase. Which bike is hers? The pink bike with black wheels is hers. And so you're finding that one. Which chair is hers? The green chair is hers. So you have to read it, circle the correct one. It goes on for a couple pages. And then it looks like we are going to be playing a game that's called Silent Ease, cap versus cape, glob versus globe, kit versus kite, slid versus slide. And then that looks like that it is it for the student workbook for that lesson in particular. Teacher's manual, probably don't need to go through it a ton because it follows the same format as Foundations A, but lesson 60, write uppercase C. And then we are doing the phonogram NG, so And then the what does it say? Plug your nose and say it. Can you say with your nose plugged? No, you cannot. Place your hand under your nose. Say again. Do you feel air coming out? Yes, it's a nasal sound. And then writing it on the whiteboard. And then we're reading NG in our Whistling Whales book, which I'll show you in a second. And then we are changing sounds here. I've arranged letters in a pattern. I want you to read the word S-I and then an N-G. What does it say? Sing. And there's wing and swing. Fling, sting, thing. And then we're doing our phonogram workbook page. And then we're doing phonogram bingo. And we're spelling thing, sing, clock, snake, and note. And then we are reading the reader number 4 called Can Pete Pick a Pet? And then I am asking them questions about it. So after they read page 1, I'm asking, what is Pete thinking about getting? And then they answer, a pet. And then they have questions for every page here. So it really is very thorough. And I don't know, I just really love this program. I think it's thorough enough in a short enough time that they're not losing focus and they're not getting bored of it. But this is the Whistling Whales book that comes with Foundations B. And it goes through, so found it like that book A, Doodling Dragons, it's the sound of every letter individually. And this book is like TH, and then SH, CK, IGH, CH, EE. And so it is just like working more in depth with that. And I love that they split it up into A, B, C, D because I don't know, I feel like it's really good to get a grasp on the individual sounds because it can get confusing that like A makes 3 different sounds. And then this one has the SH, the TH, the NG, and all those, you know, kind of ones that you wouldn't think to put together. But they've done really, really well with this. And the TH, like they split it up into, or like, well, we did the SH first. And so like for ship, for example, they would underline SH and then IP. And so it's not like S and then H and then I and then P. It's SH and then IP. And it just, I don't know, it works really well. It's hard to explain on a video, I think, but it works really, really well. Next on my list is just kind of how it compares to other programs. And so how it compares to The Good and the Beautiful, which I have done. I did preschool, kindergarten prep, and then I did kindergarten. And we didn't make it all the way through kindergarten, but we made it through lesson like 80. So we gave it a good go. And we loved preschool. We loved kindergarten prep. We are more of a secular family. We have our personal beliefs, but we school secular. And I think the preschool and the kindergarten prep very much were like, here's the colors, here's the numbers, here's the letters and sounds. And then once it got to kindergarten, it was a lot more like the pages. I've talked about this a lot in other videos and stuff that you can look at, but it was very much more cluttered. And it was like, here's a little bit of art, here's a little bit of spelling, here's a little bit of reading that you should have already known before starting the lesson. And I'm like, hold on, what are we doing here? Like, how are we supposed to already know this? It was just a lot in like 2 pages. And, you know, just for your information, I don't know if you care or not, but it would be like, God made these beautiful mountains. What do you think about how God made these? And so like, we're fine skipping over that if we need to. But it was a lot more faith heavy starting in kindergarten. But I just didn't like how it was laid out. So little bit of this, little bit of that. Like, I feel like we weren't getting a good reading lesson. It was, I mean, it is like a full curriculum, they say, which is great. And some people really, really love it. And if that works for you, that is fantastic. I love that for you. But for us, it felt like I wanted more writing than just like tiny, like one little line. I wanted more like phonics and reading help than just like memorize these sight words. And so that is kind of how it compares and why we don't love The Good and the Beautiful. So the next comparison is All About Reading. And I have not tried All About Reading, and that is one I knew I wanted to switch from The Good and the Beautiful because I wanted more in depth. And I searched like Logic of English and All About Reading a ton. And I watched as many videos as I could about it. And I was really torn on what to get. And I did land on Logic of English, which love that for us. But I think the main reason why is because I have seen a lot that All About Reading is very opposite of Open and Go. A lot of prep work, a lot of parents reading it the night before and really breaking it down and like learning what they have to learn before teaching it, and a lot of, I don't know, cutting and getting stuff ready and putting things in a folder. And correct me if I'm wrong, please do. I have not tried it, and maybe I would love it, I don't know. But that is kind of the stuff that I saw and why I wanted to go with Logic of English. And then my last comparison is Explode the Code, which we do use. We do really, really love. That was a day one curriculum for us. We have used Explode the Code since day one of preschooling and forward, and we love it. We love it. As far as a full like language arts, phonetics, reading program, I don't think so. I use it as a supplement. That's what I've always used it for. I have seen people use it as like a full reading type of program, and I don't think that that would work for us. I think that learning the phonetics, learning how letters sound, learning kind of how to read with Logic of English, and then using Explode the Code as like practice work and extra work, like, has been extremely helpful for us. We really, really love it. I do not think it would teach my kids how to read. It is very much like, here's the picture, here's the sentence, which sentence is right. And so you're kind of expected to already know it. And we do in our book work. We know how to read now, and we have known with Logic of English, like how to make the sounds and the letters and everything, so we can read those sentences and then select the correct one. And so it is fantastic practice work, but on its own, I do not think that it would suffice. But yeah, so that is why I think Logic of English is the GOAT, greatest of all time. I will use it all the way through D, and then I will be so sad when it's over, and I'll be so sad to find another curriculum because I love it so much. But yeah, it has worked for us, and hopefully this is helpful.